The opportunity to come back, Mr. Ambassador. You've been there a long time, so thank you for coming today. I want to talk about aluminum, which is a part of the national security justification for that tariff. What's the goal of putting a tariff tax on aluminum? Is it to create an environment in which the United States produces more aluminum?
I think the objective is to have a viable aluminum industry in the United States, and I think there was.
Well, now let me just. There are different parts to an aluminum. I mean, I know a little about this because I grew up near Alcoa, Tennessee, and my father worked for an aluminum smelting plant, and you make aluminum by running a lot of electricity through bauxite, and then you make an ingot, and from that ingot you make pots and pans, and, well, they roll it out, then they make pots and pans and aluminum foil and all that kind of thing. I assume we're not putting a tariff on in order to create more aluminum foil plants or more pot and pan plants. I assume the national security worry would be that we're not producing enough of the basic aluminum ingot, and that if we don't produce any of it, that's a national security problem. Would that be right?
Well, in my view, and once again, this wasn't a report that I wrote, right? It was written.
But you say this is all coordinated, and you're the trade representative.
No, yeah, what I said is I'm involved in the process.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if you were here when I said that. I'm involved in the problem.
You just said it was coordinated. I heard that part. But what's the goal of it? Do you want to produce more aluminum ingots? Is that the idea?
I think our view is that there is certain kinds of aluminum that you need in national defense, and that if you don't have some kind of an aluminum industry.
Okay, well, I don't want to run over my time. Well, but all you need to produce that aluminum is an aluminum ingot. You could then have an American plant that can produce whatever you want, right?
I'm sorry, guys, I'm not following.
Well, all I'm saying is we have a pretty robust aluminum industry in the United States. We can make about anything, aluminum foil, special aluminum, pots and pans. But it would seem to me the worry is that we don't, do you know how many aluminum smelters we have in the United States today?
We have very few.
We have 7. You know how many people work at those aluminum smelters?
I don't know the answer.
4,000. So we have 7.2 million people working in the automotive industry whose jobs are affected. We just read in the morning paper, 11% of every car is aluminum, and Ford and GM are saying they're going to not make as much money because of the tariff on aluminum, and it looks like we're doing that to protect 4,000 jobs in the aluminum smelting business, and we're not going to get those back because the reason we don't have aluminum smelting is because of the cost of electricity. Now, Alcoa produces half of the aluminum produced in the United States, 46%. They have 3 smelters, and they have one that's curtailed, which means it could open up if it wanted to. A 10% tariff is not enough to offset the increased price of electricity. So what are we going to do? Go to 20 and 30 and 40 so that we have enough aluminum ingots made in the United States and at the same time continue to add to the price increases for automotive?
So the answer is there's no plan to go to 20, 30, and 40%, Senator.
Well, then what's the justification for any tariff on aluminum if it's not enough to create an incentive for aluminum companies to create more aluminum?
I don't know about Alcoa's situation specifically, but the calculation was made at the Department of Commerce that a 10% tariff on aluminum at the margin would make a difference so that you would end up with a sustainable aluminum industry in the United States. That was the calculation.
Well, I'd like for us to talk to them because that doesn't make any sense at all, because we only got 7 smelters. We got 1 curtailed smelter. Everybody knows smelters have fled all over the world because of the price of electricity. So unless we're deliberately going to increase the price of basic aluminum ingots in the United States by 20, 30, 40%, we're not going to be able to make ingots. Now, we could get ingots. We get 40% of our aluminum from Canada, which leads me to my next question. Did I understand you a minute ago that if you're able to resolve the NAFTA agreement, that could be coordinated with the aluminum tariff, and as a result, there might not be an aluminum tariff on Canadian aluminum ingots coming into the United States?
Yes, Senator. Resolving the NAFTA issue, we would expect or hope that we would resolve the steel and aluminum issues with both Mexico and Canada.
Well, that might not resolve the aluminum price issue in the United States, because as we know, whenever you raise the price of any imported steel or aluminum, it raises the price of everything else, but at least it would deal with the supply. What I'd like to ask you to look at is whether it makes any sense to put any tariff on aluminum when the reason we don't have aluminum ingots in the United States is because of the price of electricity, and it's that much. Canada has a lot of water, so they can make electricity a lot easier, and so can other countries in the world. The last question I'd have, Mr. President, if I may, I would assume that what we're going through right now is a substantial review of NAFTA. Then why do we need a sunset clause? I mean, you're reviewing NAFTA today, and it seems to me there are a substantial number of Republicans, including me, who are not likely to vote for any new NAFTA agreement that includes a sunset clause because we don't think it's worth anything. So I'm over my time, but I would hope you would take that back to the negotiations and know that I hope that presents a real obstacle to having a sunset clause in any final NAFTA agreement.